Hi, and welcome back to the Social Hour Podcast, a podcast for sewists by sewists. I'm your host, Bethany.
And I'm your host, Audra. And today we are talking about something that is personally near and dear to my heart, and it's sewing with unconventional materials.
Yeah, this is right up your alley. We're really diving into like upcycling. And I'm excited to hear your thoughts and opinions. I have a few things I can throw in there, but this is definitely an area that Audra really enjoys. It's not that I don't, I just don't reach for it. I don't know. Maybe throughout this podcast, it'll help me understand why I don't do a lot of upcycling. I don't know. Maybe I'll learn something about myself.
Well, and the funny thing is I'm not actually sure how I stumbled into it. And well, maybe I do a little bit, but I think let's start with our icebreaker.
Yeah.
And the icebreaker question that we would love for you to answer in the Social Sewist Facebook group is, what is the weirdest or most unexpected material you've ever sewn with?
I love to bring in mediums that are unconventional when it comes to sewing. And for me, one of the first thing that popped in my mind, I'm not saying this is the wildest or craziest, but one of the first things I thought of was cardstock. I've made cards by adding fabric to cards and doing embroidery on them. Very thin line embroidery. We don't want to punch too much. You punch it right out. But I did sew on cardstock to make cards and like little placeholders for like a Thanksgiving table. It was a project I did for Singer many moons ago. And it's fun, but there's definitely a method to sewing on cardstock.
Yeah, and it's actually, mine is a similar answer. I love doing fabric postcards, and then I also love just taking a blank piece of cardstock and taking some fabric scraps, and I've made little flowers out of fabric scraps and then free motion quilted the shape of a flower on top. And it's a little weird because you're punching through this harder surface, and I think the sound is actually the bigger issue to get over because it doesn't sound normal for sewists who sew through fabric. But it's just such a fun medium to play with. And if you think about it, it's also how we teach kids to sew a lot of the times, is a piece of 8.5 by 11 sheet paper and teaching them to sew on a straight line. So our machines can do it. Make sure you want a heavier needle. Like Bethany said, not too dense. You don't want to actually punch it out and perforate it. But it's a really fun medium.
A light, like a smaller needle, so I wouldn't get such a big hole. But I also put mine in the hoop and did it with the embroidery machine. So like mine was like stabilized a little more than just the cardstock. So I think that kind of also helped. But I did stitch the fabric on first around the perimeter on top, and then had the stabilizer on the back and had the card floating in the hoop. It was fun. You can do all sorts of things and try different materials. And we're going to talk about that in today's episode. But if you have a material that you've sewn with that you feel like is a little outside the box and very creative, we'd love to hear it. And so be sure to hop over to our Facebook group, The Social Sewist, and let us know.
Well, when we talk about sewing with unconventional materials, the main crux of this whole topic is going to be upcycling. I think what got me started upcycling was probably when my grandmother passed away about 5 years ago. We had a lot of her clothes, and she had beautiful clothes. And there was just something about not wanting to just get rid of those clothes. And I think one of the first projects I actually did was I made my mom a travel jewelry pouch out of one of my grandmother's shirts. And I took the cuff that had her initials embroidered on it and really took something that was going to waste away somewhere and turn it into something that my mom could carry with her and think of her mother along all of her adventures. And I think that was really the first project I did that was like, wow, these materials really can have a great second or third chapter in their journeys. And it really is important to me, as we know, we've talked about in a previous episode. I'm a history major, so I love preserving memories. If the walls could talk, if the clothes could talk, and not being wasteful with that, and really embracing it and seeing what we can do with it moving forward.
As you were saying that, I realized I have upcycled something. And I think I didn't even think about it being upcycling, because in my mind, sometimes I think upcycling, I've gone to a thrift store, purchased something, and given it new life. And that is a part of it, right? That's part of it. But you were saying I took something that I already had or that was in my family and gave it new life and new meaning. And that quilted jacket, the first quilted coat I made, was one of Brock's baby blankets that had been sitting in a box for 17 years. And then I pull it out, it had some stains on it, and I turned it into a quilted jacket. And now it has new life, and I see it every time I open my closet, and it just makes me smile. And then maybe I think the reason why I don't think of it that way is because I just associate upcycling with thrifting. And I don't know why, but I feel like a lot of it comes from thrifting, and I don't enjoy going thrifting. Unpopular opinion, don't come for me. I just am not one of those people. I don't like to go out and go shopping. Like, I order my groceries online, y'all. So this isn't just like this. It's just I don't like going out and around people I don't want to people around. I don't know. I don't like going and sifting through and finding buried treasures. I don't like going to yard sales. I'm not one of those people. And there's a place for everybody. But I will say I have upcycled even some of my aunt's quilts that she gifted me into coats, and I've given one of those back to her as a surprise. If it's the right thing, I enjoy it. But if it's not, I don't know.
We're all different as creatives, and that's the beauty of being a creative. And I think what I truly love about it is it makes me think differently. When we have unconventional materials, it makes us think differently about how a pattern piece might lay or how it can be constructed. I've talked before about the laptop case that I made out of a sweatshirt. I've got another laptop case made out of a sweatshirt. It's just thinking differently about how you can manipulate the materials. And I also find it a challenge because then it allows me to put the things I have learned to use. If I want to make something structured out of something that is super stretchy, what interfacing do I need to add to make that work? How can I make this work for the purposes I need? And it pushes me to think creatively differently. It pushes me to apply my skills. And there's just something really exciting about knowing that you took one thing from a certain form and brought it into another form. And that's a really interesting prospect for me. And as we've said before, I like pushing those sewing boundaries sometimes to my detriment, but it's just fun. And if it crashes and burns, it crashes and burns. But at least I tried.
Yeah. You were talking about the sweatshirts for your laptop cases. And those are like sweatshirts that inspire you and get you excited because they're Hogwarts theme. And you love Harry Potter, and so do I. When I initially think of upcycling, I relate it to denim. Because there's so many things that you can make with denim. And people make bucket hats with denim a lot by upcycling jeans. It's fun. It's cute. They're scrappy. Awesome. I don't get inspired by that. And I think that's the challenge for me is like a lot of what I see in thrift stores. It's a great blank canvas, but it's not inspiring me. And so maybe I need to look at it in a different way or seek out things that do inspire me and don't feel like I have to buy things like everybody else is buying. Because then when I do, and I've done this, then I'm like, it just sits in my closet or in a bin and I never actually make anything out of it because I don't want to reach for it because it doesn't excite me. So maybe I need to figure out a way to like get excited about find excitement in what I'm going to thrift versus just getting stuff to thrift because I feel like that's what I'm supposed to do.
As creatives, we should never be doing the things we feel we have to do. We should always, always be staying true to our creative vision and what is important to us, what keeps those creative doors opening, what keeps sewing exciting for us. That is absolutely what it should be. And if it's not something that excites you, that is 1000% okay. And
I feel bad though, because I'm like,
why?
I don't know. It's like upcycling such a positive thing. And like, it's like environmentally smart and it's like using what you have or finding, repurposing things to give them new life. And I feel like I've done it to some degree here and there without even realizing it. But I don't know. I feel like I have this like stereotype of what upcycling is. And that doesn't excite me. And I don't know how to explain it any other way.
You should never apologize for not doing something that doesn't excite you. It's not for everybody. Sewing with unconventional materials is not for everybody. It's what is your creative path. And that is something we will say time and time again in this podcast is to honor your creative path. I think it's easier for me in a lot of ways because my family is kind of trained. Oh, I don't want this anymore, and it ends up on my sewing table. And it might not be anything that inspires me, so I might end up donating it. Or it might be something great that I turn into XYZ.
Yeah.
Similar to you, denim on its face is not super exciting for me to work with, but I made a sling bag out of like 6 different pairs of shorts and jeans that my family had left me because I quilted it. I pieced it, I quilted it, I hand quilted it, I added all these different components and made it something that didn't look like denim. So it excited me. Yeah. And that's kind of finding the way that it can excite you. If that's a path you want to go down, which you don't ever feel, you should never feel like you have to.
I don't know what it is.
And that's okay.
But I will say this. We did a challenge when I worked at SVP. We did a challenge for the Viking convention, and it's the educators make whatever the challenge is, and then everybody who attends, all the dealers, vote. And so we did a challenge where we had to make something, make a material, make a fabric, and then turn it into something. I wouldn't say that everybody really followed the guidelines of that, but I enjoyed it. I know everybody else enjoyed what they made, but there were things that materials that people use that I would have never thought of. And it's fun to see, it's inspiring, but I don't know that I would have ever, even if I saw someone else do it, would want to do it myself. And one of those is someone took like the Chips Ahoy bags, like the little fun size, like Chips Ahoy bags and Oreo bags. And they took those like foil type of bags. I guess they ate the cookies. That's probably the fun part of it. But then they like washed them out and then like sewed with that material and turned it into like different elements on this like artsy kind of piece that they made. And so it was fun to see that. My mind would have never thought to do that. But I also just the thought of like having to clean out the crumbs from one of those bags kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. So that's also why I'm just kind of like, no. So unless they,
and I'm like, oh, let's do it.
Yeah. And again, like I bring it up because it might inspire one of you, it might inspire Audra to do it. Like it's kind of fun. I loved seeing it. I thought it was super cute, but then I was like, I'll never do that because the thought of like washing out that I don't even like doing dishes, y'all. So maybe that answers that question of like what's wrong with her. But I don't know. Like I don't know.
Yeah. My mom and I were talking yesterday about keeping all your thread snips, your thread ends that you cut off. And we've seen so many people do cool things where you like lay them out and like cover it in tulle and then make a bag out of it, or cover it in vinyl and make a bag out of it. It's just such a fun way to like take something that you're just going to throw away and turn it into something super creative and artistic. And it's just really cool to see. I haven't done that yet.
Not one of those
like
people. I'm just not one of those
and
people.
I am one of those people.
At that same convention, my friend Meredith that I worked with, she had a huge jar of all of her threads that she's collected, and she did the you can do cutaway embroidery where you have this like blade needle that will cut away, and you remove the center of that flower of the embroidery, and then she put mesh behind, like layered the mesh and sewed the different colors of threads together, and that made the color inside the flower. It was beautiful. Her and I kind of talked through, and she won the whole prize. But when we started talking through, she's like, well, I have all this thread. And I was like, who keeps all their thread? Like, that's not even on my radar. You've got a coffee mug. This girl had like a glass jar stuffed full from years. And it just, to me, that's not, like I said in the last episode, I just started keeping my selvage edges because someone was like, oh, you can do some fun things with it. That was not, my brain just doesn't think that way. I don't know. I just like starting with something fresh and new when I start a project. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. If you're with me, that's great. If not, that's okay too. I love seeing what you guys make. Don't get me wrong. I get inspired by it and I think it's super fun. But I don't know why. It's just interesting to see how our brains are wired differently. And I think it's really showing in this episode.
And the last episode too.
And the last one.
So I want to go into some tips and tricks in regards to choosing some upcycling fabrics that are ones that are my go-to tricks. And just to kind of think about if you're already an upcycler, you probably know all these, or if you're interested in upcycling, Upcycling, like Bethany said, you can be in a thrift store or you can also upcycle in your own house. A lot of the times, if I'm doing, my biannual closet purge, there might be something that I'm not going to wear anymore, but the fabric's really great.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll actually keep it and then upcycle my own thing into something else.
We've also talked about upcycling like bags, like if you've got a bag that you no longer are going to use, like rip the hardware out of it before you toss it. Like that to me would make sense.
Yep. And I was actually going to touch on that too, going into thrift stores. So when you go into thrift stores, it's not just fabric to look at. So to Bethany's point, there's also bags that there might be some great hardware on there, some great buckles. Zippers are harder to repurpose, but there's other elements that could be really, really great to repurpose, not only into other bags, but maybe even into like a fun apparel project. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's like a buckle you could use. Maybe it's a grommet. Maybe it's just something fun. When I go into a thrift store, I'm looking for quality materials. I mean, you want things that are in decent shape. I usually will head towards, I like looking in the men's shirt section, the men's jacket section. Those are usually some good finds in that area. And then I'll also usually beeline it for the obvious ones. Things like quilts, sheets, curtains, etc., even napkins. There might be some really stunningly beautiful fabrics. I actually have a comforter I bought for like $5. It's super cute that I have yet to sew anything with, but I'd fully intend to because I think it'll be a really cute, big, puffy bag.
Yeah.
Big, bright, bold florals. And it's a big comforter, and it was $5. And it was in really good shape. That being said, everything I find, I wash when I get home. Like I will never, ever take something and then sew with it right away. I will always wash everything that I bring home. And when you're doing this, remember, this is also time to play as well. So don't get too hung up on making it perfect. Like anything we make, being creative should be an exploration of what is capable. So don't get too hung up on, oh my God, that's not perfect. Oh, maybe this tablecloth is too beautiful for what I want to do. Well, the tablecloth was in the thrift store for a reason. So let's give it new life. Let's try something new. Let's enjoy it. And like other things, test sew on it first, because you might think you know what the fabric is you're working with, but just to be sure that your needle's right, your thread's right, your stitch length is right, do some test sewing first. You always want to make sure you know what you're working with, because if you do find that diamond in the rough, stunning piece of fabric that someone gave away and you don't understand why, you want to make sure that you don't damage it before you make your project with it.
I actually did buy a couple of bed sheets back when I was writing like garment patterns and having to do a lot of testing while drafting the pattern. I was like, I can't keep using my good stuff. Bolts of muslin can get pretty expensive. Sometimes I needed to like have stuff I could cut into that had like a woven texture like a muslin, but was much cheaper. So I got some very ugly but very durable like bed sheets, and I was like, nobody's gonna wear this, nobody's gonna see this. It was a great fit test, figuring out the process for drafting some of my patterns, and that was a time where it made sense for me to go and do that. Since I'm not doing a whole lot of that now, I have a couple of bed sheets sitting over here, and I'm just like, do I really need to hold on to those? I could just always go get more, and maybe I'd redonate them to someone else. I do have someone that I follow that will make little Raggedy Ann dolls, and she would go get like different sweaters and turn that into like things that they would wear. And then someone else I know, she'll find quilts and different things and turn them into mittens. There's a lot of people who definitely lean into the upcycling. Maybe they have better resources for finding and sourcing things in thrift shops than I do here. I just don't feel like there's really good. I've dug a few times. It's not some really good ones here. Maybe they're better ones where you guys are, and that's why you have better luck than I do.
Well, and you always got to go pack your patience a little bit. I have to be in the mood to hunt, but I can get in the mood to hunt. Some other fun things I've seen along the way, and I will preface this with, I have not done this, but I've always wanted to. I've seen beautiful dresses made out of measuring tape. The other thing I've seen that I would love to try, and we've got so many downstairs. I should actually do this. Maybe this is my instigation to try it. I saw someone make fun top out of CDs. So they actually like would punch the holes and basically think like chainmail on steroids. And they like join them with jump rings. Because I have all these CDs in the basement that we've no idea what to do with.
I don't even have a CD player anymore.
No, neither do we. That's why we don't know what to do with them.
My car still has a CD player. And it has had the same CD in it since I bought the car 10 years ago. Should I out myself and tell you what it is?
Do it. What is it?
And the worst part is every time you turn on the car, it defaults to the CD player. So every time you turn on my car for the last 10 years, it plays a song on the CD and it just keeps working its way through the album.
So what's the album, Bethany? Just spill it.
It's embarrassing.
Just do it.
A Walk to Remember. Remember the movie?
Oh, the movie?
Yes.
The movie soundtrack? That's
the whole
not
soundtrack for like a movie from like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It is embarrassing because it's been the only CD in my car for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I don't just take it out.
Take it out.
Anyways.
So when we're talking about sewing with unconventional materials, the main takeaway here is do not be afraid to play.
Yeah.
Whether it's cardstock, whether it's a familiar material just in a different form like a curtain or a tablecloth, or whether it's something interesting like CDs or duct tape, don't be afraid to play. Mm-hmm. That's why we're creatives. That's why we're sewists, just to try something new and have fun with our craft. And the other thing I wanted to mention, there's a really fascinating documentary that I actually was watching one day when I was doing some long arming. And the documentary is called Brandy Hellville and the Cult of Fast Fashion. And I just blowing through Max and found it one day and started watching it. And in general, it was, the same thing about like retail stores, et cetera, et cetera. What was really interesting about this documentary was it talked about when things don't sell in thrift stores, where they end up. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole section about how they actually end up a lot of times in Africa. And they had footage of the entire sea floor covered in clothing because there was so much excess of clothing. And there was just all this, like, imagine walking into the water on a beach and you're walking on clothes because there's so much clothes. And I think that was a huge part for me. So I used to, like clockwork, donate clothes. And I always think I was doing something really, really good. Like, oh, I'm so great. I'm donating clothes somewhere. And I saw that and I went, okay, maybe I need to rethink my approach here a little bit. And I think that also kind of spooled up my upcycling a little bit, because if I can give something a new life and it's not sitting
in the
underwater in the ocean,
harming animals,
that makes me, it might be one piece of clothing that's not there, but at least it's one piece of clothing that's not there. And it's my little part that I can try to do. And it's a pretty interesting documentary. If you want to see it again, it's called Brandy Hellville and the Cult of Fast Fashion. And I think that's really slowed down a lot of my clothing purchases and my donations.
There's been some times where we've had someone pop into like a Facebook community group and say, hey, I've got some teenagers that are in a tough spot with their family situation and they're having to kind of rebuild some things and need some clothes. And I'm like, hey, if my clothes will fit that teenager, I would say I wear something pretty simple that they could, nothing embarrassing over here for a teen to wear. So I just would find ways that I could donate with intention and purpose, knowing that they're going to get used at least for a little while longer. That's really sad to hear. I did not know that.
I didn't know. And it's really interesting to see. And I love the giving with intention. And when we were moving, I had a lot of business apparel that I didn't intend on taking with me. And there was a career closet.
Oh yeah, we have those here too.
So for women re-entering the workforce, or people who need a really nice business suit but can't necessarily afford to invest in a really nice business
They
suit.
also have
And-
things like that on a lot of college campuses too, for
Yes.
students who can't afford to go buy a suit but need a suit for a job interview or need a suit for that first internship. We have a couple of programs here, and when I used to work in finance and accounting staffing, and we had to wear suits every day to work, and we would do a suit drive every year. It was a nationwide company, but they would do a massive suit drive and then donate that to places like that in each city that we had an office. Things like that they could use to have that first job, re-enter the workforce, get that first interview, and be dressed to impress. And so I think there's a lot of ways that we can be more intentional.
Little bit of turn off unconventional materials, but at the end of the day, I think it's just slowing down, looking at what you have available, and thinking differently about some of the materials you can make with. We don't necessarily have to buy something off the bolt. We can be creative, and we can try new ways to lay out our fabrics, piece our fabrics, utilize fabrics in our sewing projects. And with that, we're going to go into our social spotlight.
All right. Who is your social spotlight this week?
My social spotlight is Sarah Thomas. Her handle on Instagram is @Saridity, SARIDITTY. She is a designer for Moda. She is also a pilot, and she has a great new fabric collection coming out called High Flight, which I don't know if we've discussed on this podcast, but I am a pilot as well and come from a family of pilots. So anytime I can see a really great, fun aviation fabric in our sewing world, I get super excited. Her new collection is super cute. She's an incredibly talented designer for Moda, as well as a pattern designer. And I just want to give her a plug because that pattern line is hitting stores this summer, and keep a lookout for it.
So my social spotlight speaks to our topic of upcycling, and I do follow so many people that upcycle. Like, you guys inspire me, and I love following your journey and your creativity. Karen Sullivan, her Instagram is Sully's Upcycled, SULLYS UPCYCLED. We'll link both of these in the show notes. But she's an upcycling advocate. She really is kind of known for upcycling quilts like into mittens, but also like quilt coats and all these other things. But she makes a lot of mittens, and I love watching her make them. And she does so much with fun colors, and it just is really inspiring. She's fun energy, but 100% upcycled. If you're into that, or you want to get inspired by someone who's really doing it and doing it in a fun way, go follow her. Her name's Karen Sullivan.
So next week is the ultimate sewing machine debate.
Ooh. That might have to be a few parts.
Well, I'm going to preface it right now with there's no right answer. I think we'll talk a lot about different types, what's right for you, but there's always it is the great sewing machine debate.
I get asked this question so many times, sometimes multiple times a week. I get questions about, I'm looking for a new this, I want to upgrade this, or I want to add this, or like what, I want to get into this type of sewing, so I need a serger, or whatever it may be. And they always come to me because at the end of the day, I'm going to ask you a series of questions that's going to help you process all the options to find out what's best for you. And then I'm going to give you my best tips to how to do that. I literally just walked the owners of Caterpillar, their wives decided to get new machines, and I literally walked them through this, what to do, what to ask, how to try things out. So we're going to talk about all of that because I want you to feel like you have everything you need to know to be able to make the best decision for you, your budget, and what you want to make. So we'll go through that. I'm excited about that conversation. I have a lot to share on that one. I was a little quiet on this upcycle topic, which is fine. I've learned stuff about me. Let's wrap up with our You Love to See It. Audra, what is your You Love to See It?
My You Love to See It is perfectly in line with Sewing with Unconventional Materials, and Project Runway is back.
I love
Season
Project
21 is back.
Would you go on Project Runway if you could?
Oh, I don't have that. I'm not. No, I don't have that ability. Absolutely not.
Why not?
No.
I would in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I would.
I work well under pressure.
Well, here's the thing: is I don't pattern draft. So I wouldn't know. I'll work off other people's patterns all day long, but I can't pattern draft. So I'd be dead on arrival.
I learned how to make patterns by draping, and that's a lot of what they do. Drape and pen, and then they like cut and make it. I think I would do okay. I would need some practice to get back into the swing of that, but to have all that fabric at my fingertips and to be able to use those industrial machines, I think I would be in heaven so much.
Oh, and I've been to Mood in New York.
I've always wanted to go.
It is so much smaller than it looks on the show.
Really?
Like so much smaller. It's 2 stories.
Yeah.
It's on the third floor of a building. And it's 2 stories. But it is much smaller than it looks on camera. But it is the amount of fabric in that space.
Does it feel like a fire hazard?
No.
Because it kind of looks like it on the videos.
I mean, it is incredible how much fabric there is. And I just think Christian Siriano is like the coolest person to ever walk the earth. So to be able to spend time with Christian Siriano, I would just be like, can I just be on the show for 5 minutes just to hang out with Christian?
I remember his season.
Oh, I do too. I've been rewatching season 20 as just like to get myself in the mood. And season 20 was the All-Star season where like everybody came back. Yeah. And it's so fun watching Christian mentor all the people who were also on the show, and one of them actually being from his season. So it's really cool. Project Runway's back and I'm really excited.
So my you love to see it is gonna come off as maybe not a positive, but I'm gonna spin it that way. It's Quilt Police, and I don't love to see it, but what I do love to see is all the people supporting me in the comments against these Quilt Police. So let me digress. I went to a retreat and I made 2 of the biggest quilt tops I've ever made. And I did that. You know how a lot of quilters, they'll do the little slow-mo unroll of their quilt.
Reveals.
Yeah. And and a lot of times it's just the quilt top that they do that with. And then they'll do it again with the actual full quilt. But it's easier to do it with the quilt top because it's not as heavy and thick yet. And it just kind of slowly like unrolls. So as soon as I did the first one, I was like, I'm going to make one of these videos. I've always wanted to do this and it's so fun. And so I did it and I posted it. And I don't know if anybody knows the definition of a rhetorical question, but I don't think the people on Facebook do. Just for reference for those Facebook users out there who came for me in the comments, when I said, does this make me a quilter with a crying laughing emoji, that was a rhetorical question. That was not a come and get me question. What's even funnier is like below that, I went on to say, I'm going to finish this by adding a border, do some fun binding, and I can't wait to finish this quilt, but I'm so proud of my first really big quilt top. They came for me. I mean, this video blew.
I'm not sure what there was to come for you about.
Right? I wasn't expecting it. It kind of blew up, and I got tons of views and comments, and most of those, well, I will say this, 100% of the Quilt Police came for me on Facebook, not Instagram. Take that for what you want. But they came for me, and it was certain people that decided that I wasn't a quilter, I was a piecer. Or that's a nice top that you made, but you're not a quilter till you quilt it. Or you're not a quilter unless you hand quilt it and hand bind it. Or you're not a quilter unless you send it off to get it long armed. There were so many things telling me that I wasn't a quilter because I made a quilt top. And I'm like, you do understand it's not just the act of quilting the sandwich that makes you a quilter. It's the whole process to make it into a quilt, including piecing the quilt top. It's just mean you're shutting me down. I kind of just ignored it. I don't respond to them. My mom came in the comments and she's like, it's beautiful. Of course you're a quilter. And I was like, you know what, guys? My mom says I'm a quilter. That's the only opinion that matters. And then sweet Missy with the little green bean, she loathes the Quilt Police. And she started coming to my defense in the comments. And I had some other people start coming to my defense in my comments. So my you love to see it is those who truly do support the sewing community and everyone trying new things, whether you're someone who's been sewing like myself or someone who's brand new to it. There's a huge group. There's more of us that are going to cheer you on and come to your support than the Quilt Police. They just feel a little loud at times because they're just negative Nancy's who just like have nothing better to do than clickety click on their keyboard because they couldn't make a quilt top as beautiful as mine. Let's be real. Let's be real. Let's call it what it is. I'm going to get a little spicy here. This is where you're going to see the, what is it? bless your heart, but the spicy southern side of it, like this is where we're at. And I kind of like just was over it. I don't really look at it anymore. Thanks for all the views and attraction. I invited all of them to follow my Facebook page. If you're going to comment, you might as well be here for the ride and see me finish it. I don't know. Like my you love to see it is all the people that rallied around me and said, of course you're a quilter. I learned to quilt from you. You've quilted other things. They're just judging me off of one video. And I'm not here for the judgy McJudgersons. We don't do that. But we'll leave the comments because it's something to learn from and it gives me boosts in my algorithm. So as long as it's not derogatory or inappropriate in that manner, I'll leave it. I don't care. But I just might love to see it as all of you guys supporting me, shutting them down, putting them in their place, and in a very nice way, I will say. And yeah, just know like it happens to all of us, including me, where the Quilt Police will come out in full force.
Yeah.
Nothing you can do about it.
Your people are your people, and if they're not your people, they're not your people.
All right, guys. Well, I'm excited about our machine debate next week. That's going to be a fun one. I love it. And we'll see you then. Happy sewing.